You have to look at it and say, hey, you know what you did wrong. Stand up. It's time for everybody to just be accountable.
The University of North Carolina isn't just a college, it's a basketball temple. Home to legends like Jordan, Worthy, Sheed, Vince. If you're a top recruit and you choose Chapel Hill, the world assumes one thing: you're next. And for a while, it looked like these three were. Rashad McCants, a high school phenom, hailed as the second coming of Vince Carter. Marvin Williams, the perfect NBA prototype who didn't even start in college. And Joe Forte, the smooth, scoring guard who dominated the ACC and looked like a can't-miss lead guard. Each one left UNC with hype in their luggage, draft buzz, big expectations, and lottery dreams. And all three supposed to change the game. But something went wrong. Different reasons, same result. Within a few short years, they were forgotten by the league they were supposed to define. This is episode 3, the North Carolina trio that was supposed to change the game but never took over. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. At one point, Rashad McCants was that guy. 6'4", built like a tank, confident like a star, and dangerous from all three levels. Coming out of Irwin High School in Asheville, North Carolina, McCants was seen as the next big Tar Heel shooting guard, the heir to Vince Carter, with just enough Iverson's edge to make him a can't-miss attraction. From the second he touched the floor at UNC, the numbers backed up the hype. Freshman year, 17.5 points per game, explosive slashing, highlight dunks, and a confidence that made him feel NBA ready before he even grew into his role. By his sophomore season, scouts were already projecting him as a top 10 NBA pick. He could have left right then. Maybe he should have. Instead, McCants stayed for his junior year with hopes to move up in the draft, and while UNC won the national championship, his individual stock started to slide. He was part of a stacked roster: Raymond Felton, Sean May, Marvin Williams, and others. McCants, once the focal point, became one of many, but that wasn't the only issue. There were rumblings of attitude problems. He clashed with head coach Roy Williams and came off as moody in interviews. In an era where NBA teams started obsessing over character and coachability, McCants was suddenly no longer safe. He fell to the 14th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, landing with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a franchise known at the time for dysfunction, poor player development, and one of the worst front offices in basketball. They had no real structure, no plan for him, and after Kevin Garnett was traded, no identity. In his first few seasons, Rashad showed flashes, averaging over 14 points per game in 2007-08, shooting 40% from deep. But then came injuries. Then came rotations that didn't include him. Then came the label locker room distraction. He bounced from Sacramento to the D-League, then out the league altogether. His last NBA game came before he even turned 26. But McCants wasn't quiet after the league let him go. In interviews, he blasted UNC's program, accused the school of academic fraud, and even said things like LeBron James was ducking his competition by staying in the East. He became more of a headline for quotes than hoops, a cautionary tale in some eyes and overlooked talent in others. But make no mistake, Rashad McCants was one of the main North Carolina guys that were supposed to change the game. He just never got to finish the play. He also had what separates the most talented from their potential, a poor mindset that believed everyone around him is wrong, and his way is the only way all the time. His attitude, disposition, and personality rubbed the wrong people the wrong way, and his stubbornness kept him from changing and extending his NBA career. He's now one of my favorite sports show hosts for these very reasons, but back then, he just got in his own way. Marvin Williams was supposed to be the blueprint. By the time he reached North Carolina, the NBA had already been reshaped by LeBron James. Front offices were now obsessed with the new archetype, a 6'8", 6'9" wing, athletic, fluid, and versatile enough to play 3 positions. Marvin Williams had all of it: the size, the movement, the upside. He was quiet, humble, coachable, everything Rashad McCants wasn't. And yet, he wasn't even a starter. Williams came off the bench during his entire freshman season at UNC. He was the sixth man behind veterans like Jawad Williams and Jackie Manuel. But that didn't matter to scouts. He still put up 11.3 points and 6.6 rebounds per game on a loaded championship team, and every time he touched the court, his NBA-ready frame jumped off the screen. In workouts, he blew teams away. He looked like he'd grow into a 20-10 star within 3 years, and in 2005, the Atlanta Hawks drafted him second overall, ahead of Chris Paul and Deron Williams, and way ahead of reality. That pick changed the Hawks, and not in a good way. Marvin was never terrible, but he was never great. He was solid, that's it. Double-digit points, decent defense, average rebounding, and no signature skill. Over 15 seasons, he played for 5 teams, made 0 All-Star games, and never averaged more than 15 points in a season. So what happened? The truth is, the hype was never really his. It was projected onto him. Scouts saw what might be, or a mold of something else, instead of what he was. And being the second pick in the draft, you can't afford to just be solid. You have to be special. Marvin didn't have the scoring aggression of Carmelo or the passing mind of a LeBron. He wasn't a dominant defender like Kawhi or a floor spacer like Durant. He had the body, but not the instincts. In the end, Marvin Williams played over 1,000 games in the NBA. He was professional, consistent, and well-liked, but he was never a star. And when you go second overall, that's not enough. Marvin was supposed to be the next wave. Instead, he became a reminder that prototype doesn't equal promise. Before college, before the NBA, before the arguments, Joe Forte was a name you couldn't escape. He was the guy, a top-ranked guard coming out of DeMatha Catholic, McDonald's All-American, and one of the best pure scorers the high school game had seen in years. Then he got to North Carolina and didn't just live up to the hype, he surpassed it. ACC Co-Player of the Year as a sophomore, 2-time All-ACC, averaged over 20 points per game in his second season, while shooting over 43% from 3. He had NBA range, college polish, and a poise that made him look league-ready at 19. Scouts loved his fluid jumper, his footwork, and his confidence in ISO situations. But he wasn't explosive, but his craft made up for it. You couldn't watch him and not think he's next. So when he entered the 2001 NBA draft, most saw him as a surefire lottery pick, but draft night came and he slipped. The Boston Celtics passed, so did Atlanta, then Orlando. He was finally taken 21st overall by the Boston Celtics, but by then the buzz had already turned into questions. The problem, he wasn't a true point guard, and at just 6'3", he was undersized for a 2. The NBA couldn't figure out what he was. He wasn't fast enough to break down elite defenders, wasn't strong enough to switch defensively, and didn't have the playmaking to lead a second unit. He barely touched the floor in Boston, averaging just 1.7 points per game his rookie year. Then he was shipped to Seattle. After 2 seasons, he was gone, out the NBA completely. No injury, no major scandal, just gone. And for someone with that much talent, it never made sense. To this day, his career feels like a glitch, a case study in how fast the league can forget you if you don't fit the mold. I talked about Forte's downfall on this channel before, and if you haven't seen that video, I advise you not to go see that video. He DM'd me on Instagram, upset that I told his story at all, and I respected the back and forth, but I told him what I'll always tell people. I don't do these stories to clown anyone. I tell them because they matter, because fans deserve to know how a guy who was supposed to be a cornerstone became a mystery. Joe Forte should have been a 10-year NBA guard. Instead, he's a name barely remembered, except by those who saw how good he really was. North Carolina doesn't just produce talent, it manufactures legacy. You don't leave Chapel Hill without expectations taped to your back. Rashad McCants had the tools, the scoring, the swagger. Marvin Williams had the frame, the look, the draft stock. And Joe Forte had the skill, the stats, and the resume. Each one had a moment where it all felt possible, but for all 3, that moment passed. Bad fits, misused roles, no second chances, the game moved on like it always does. But rewind the tape and you'll see what could have been. They weren't busts, but reminders that hype is fragile, and when you're supposed to change the game, you rarely get to fail quietly. This was episode 3 of Supposed to Change the Game, a series about the players who were once promised everything and ended up with nothing close to what they were owed. Rashad McCants, Marvin Williams, and Joe Forte. Each left UNC with the weight of a legacy on their shoulders. None lived up to the myth, but all left behind a story worth telling. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What other top programs should we cover? Duke, Arizona, Louisville? And if you're new here, hit subscribe for more series and basketball stories. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. I'm out.
You're there to put fans in the seat.